नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Hare Krishna. Today we'll be discussing Bhagavad Gita as it is. Chapter 4, text 38. Nahi gnanena sadrusham pavitram iha vidyate tatsvayam yoga samsiddhaha kalenatmani vindati. So Krishna mentions here the glories of transcendental knowledge. Gnanena sadrusham, like this transcendental knowledge. Gnanena sadrusham means equal or like this. Nahi, there is no other thing. Nahi iha vidyate, there is nothing in this world, there is nothing so sublime and pure as transcendental knowledge. Nahi pavitram iha vidyate. Tat swayam yoga samsiddhaha. Yoga samsiddhaha means that is obtained at a very mature stage of devotion. And once it is attained, kalena atmani vindati. One enjoys that within himself. And one who has achieved this enjoys the self within himself, enjoys this knowledge within himself in due course of time. So this knowledge means, as Prabhupada mentions, what is our relation with Krishna? That is a spiritual knowledge. That knowledge which is the cause of our removal of our bondage. In the purport, Prabhupada writes, ignorance is the cause of our bondage and knowledge is the cause of our liberation. Rishabhadeva, he says in his teachings in Srimad Bhagavatam, Mahat sevam dvara mahur vimuktehe tamodvaram yoshitam sangi sangam. When you associate with Mahats or great personalities, Mahat Sevam, it opens a door for liberation. Dwaram ahur vimuktehe. It opens the door for a dwaram called vimukta or liberation. But if you associate with Yoshitam, means those who are interested in enjoying sense gratification. Yoshit means women. For a man it is woman. For a woman it is man. So for a Yoshitam Sangi, what will happen? It opens the door for Yoshitam Sangi Sangam Tamodwaram. Tamodwaram Yoshitam Sangi Sangam. So this is the result of following or associating with Yoshitam. Unfortunately, people in this world, they're all after sense gratification. They're all after Yoshitam. So that is the ignorance. Because of ignorance, we seek satisfaction and gratification in material objects, illusory relations. This is the ignorance. And so Prabhupada says here, ignorance is the cause of bondage. And knowledge is the cause of our liberation. And this knowledge is the mature fruit of devotional service. So, when you engage in devotional service, Krishna gives this transcendental knowledge. In other words, this knowledge, of course, we can cultivate. We should read books given by our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, acquire knowledge. But importantly, if that knowledge has to become mature, realized, then that has to be revealed in the heart. And that revelation Krishna gives when he is pleased with our service. Atah Sri Krishna Namadi na bhaved grahyam indriyaihi sevonmukhehi jihvadau swayameva spuratyadaha. When one is engaged in seva, sevonmukhehi jihvadau, starting with one's tongue, particularly by chanting of the holy names, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And when Krishna is pleased, then Krishna bestows Swayameva Spuratyadaha. That Divya Gyan within the heart, when Krishna is pleased, when is Krishna pleased? Only when the spiritual master is pleased. Yasya prasadad bhagavat prasado, yasya prasadan nagatih kutopi. It says, when the spiritual master is pleased, yasya prasadat, Krishna is pleased. And to please the spiritual master, one has to follow the discipline. There was one devotee who was asking me in the very early stages, Prabhu, when we perform bhakti, it is our love for Krishna. I love Krishna. And I want to offer bhakti to Krishna in my own way. Why there are so many rules and regulations? Why you are putting so many regulations around services, around behavior, etiquettes, and so many things. It feels like my independent service nature, independent relation with Krishna, independent emotional love and offering with Krishna is curtailed. So I told him, the first sign of somebody that you love is that you obey them, isn't it? When you obey or when you love somebody and you disobey them, it is not a love. The first sign of love is obedience. So by obedience, you have to prove that you love. You have not come to the point of Raga Bhakti where you can deal with Krishna however you want and Krishna likes that. Actually in Vrindavan, there is only Raganuga Bhakti. Krishna is loved like a next door boy, and there are no formalities like in Vaikuntha. And the relation is so informal and casual. Because they are full in love for Krishna, Krishna actually likes that. When his friends consider him as an ordinary boy, jump on him, and the lovers like gopis, they say, oh, you are nothing before Radharani. You are staying outside. You are not allowed. Or the parents, they consider Krishna as their dependent boy, who will get diseased, who will die if not taken care. So like that, Krishna likes that. Because we also like to be with our close friends who are very close, who can even chastise us, who can take the liberty of chastising us because they love us so much and we love them so much. That is in a very advanced stage. But in the beginning stages, Krishna says you have to obey, you have to follow the discipline. Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. You go to the spiritual master and you surrender pranipata and you inquire and you render service. So there has to be discipline. So Prabhupada gives a very nice definition of disciple. That was a very revealing and mind-blowing thing for me. One who follows the discipline is called a disciple. It's the most beautiful definition. So if you want to be a disciple, then you have to follow the discipline. So there was one devotee during Prabhupada's times. He complained to Prabhupada. He wrote a letter to Prabhupada saying that in that temple the system was not good and he was finding difficulty, and he wrote to Prabhupada. He obviously he joined by that time few years. So Prabhupada wrote back to him, my dear such and such, I noted the contents of your letter. It is very good that you want to become very learned in Krishna consciousness. But what good is so much knowledge without practice? Obedience must be there. So by being submissive in this way and following the direction of the temple leaders is practicing the knowledge of Krishna consciousness. Disciple means discipline. Without discipline, there cannot be any spiritual progress. Therefore, our system is to follow the authority or our superiors. Not that we can independently question. Not this is right and this is wrong. That is not the way. So Prabhupada was chastising him for acting erratically instead. There has to be obedience in bhakti. There has to be discipline in bhakti. And Prabhupada says, okay, you may have knowledge, but what good is so much knowledge without practice, without humility, without obedience, without discipline? So in other words, the knowledge that Krishna talks about here is much more than academic or book knowledge or knowledge of philosophy. It is much more. It is all-round knowledge of devotional service. The first thing is obedience. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, there was this personality who is Vallabhacharya. And he is a great personality, great devotee of the Lord. He comes to Jagannath Puri, very learned. And he has written a commentary on Bhagavad, and he also wrote some commentary on the holy name. And he wants the Lord, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to hear that commentary. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu detected some pride in him. So he was always ignoring him. And Vallabhacharya became disappointed. And why Mahaprabhu is ignoring me? And he would go to the devotees. And he found one opportunity in the association of devotees to exhibit some portions of his commentary. So he asked a very interesting and intriguing question. He said, so you're all chanting the holy name of Krishna, but I have a question. You're all like Krishna is like the Supreme Lord, the possessor of all energies, and we are like the energetic, or the relation also is like we serve him and Krishna is the served. Just like the husband is the head of the family and everybody serves him, like the wife, the duty of the wife is to serve the husband. And the protocol is that the wife does not dare, or it's not right on the wife, of course, in the ancient Vedic times, the wife should not call the husband by name. It's considered transgressing the etiquette. Then why you're chanting the name of Krishna, calling Krishna by name? And then the devotees, They said, no, you better ask this question to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who only can give that answer. So he goes to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, asks that question. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, it's a good question, but what you have to understand is the first duty of the wife is to obey the order of the husband. And what is the order of the husband? What is the order of Krishna? You chant my holy names. Satatam kirtayanto mam. Manmana bhava madbhakto. So if the wife is called to, the first thing the wife has to do is to be obedient to the husband. So therefore, our duty is to first chant. And by chanting, one become ecstatic in love for Krishna. And that's what Krishna wants. And that's why we do chanting. And everybody becomes amazed. And Vallabhacharya, he continues to showcase his commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam. But Mahaprabhu, he reluctantly hears. And he says, I've written this commentary because some portions of what our previous Acharya Sridhar Swami has written, I think it's not so much right. It needs correction. So I have given this commentary. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu becomes stern and very strict on him. And he responds, and he says, one who disregards Swami, I consider him to be a prostitute. Or in other words, our husband is like the Swami, or the wife's husband is like Swami to her. One who disregards, gives up that relation of Swami, is considered a prostitute. Very stern. In other words, Sridhar Swami is considered the Swami. He is the previous Acharya. His words are accurate and authoritative. And one who follows, they become glorified and they get the benefit of Krishna consciousness. Anybody who neglects, who disregards, who tries to correct, thinking one has become greater than one's Swami, is of no use. Nobody will get benefit. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu strongly chastises. So the point is, of course, eventually Vallabhacharya recognizes that he's also a great devotee. But to correct his little bit of pride in him, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu acted like that. So he finally recognizes that. And then he corrects his pride and continues his wonderful devotional service. So the point here is that knowledge by itself, when it is not adorned with practice, with our behavior, with our etiquettes, Vaishnava behavior. That's why Krishna says humility, pridelessness, all these things are qualities of knowledge. Knowledge is not just accumulation of philosophy. It has to show up in behavior. Amanitvam adambhitvam ahimsa kshantirajyavam acharyopasanam saucham स्थैर्यम आत्मविनिग्रह अमानित्वम अदम्भित्वम humility, pridelessness, non-violence, simplicity, tolerance, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadfastness, sense control, all these things constitute knowledge. And the best thing is, Krishna says, Prabhupada says in that purport, that One might think, oh, there are so many things I have to cultivate before being called knowledgeable. But actually, by one pointed attention on devotional service, all of them gradually we acquire. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Janayati Asu Vairagyam Gnanam Chayad Ahaitukam. When one engages in Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga and it causes Janayati, very soon it causes Gnanam Ahaitukam, Vairagyam Gnanam. Both Vairagya and Gnana. So knowledge has to lead to detachment, isn't it? If knowledge does not lead to detachment, then one becomes even more bigger materialist. He uses that knowledge in the wrong way for his own benefit. So Krishna consciousness not only reveals transcendental knowledge, but it also leads to Vairagya. Therefore, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya wrote this verse. Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yogam Sikshardhameka Purusha Purana Sri Krishna Chaitanya Shariradhari Krupambudir Tam Aham Prapadye. So he actually wrote two verses and he wrote it on a palm leaf and he gave it to one devotee, Jagadanand Pandit, and asked him to show it to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And before Jagadanand Pandit went to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that palm leaf is taken by Mukunda, another great devotee, another great singer in Chaitanya Leela. And he copies it on a wall outside. And everybody starts to read that, and they would have already by hearted it, kept in their hearts. And when they go and show that to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually playing the part of a devotee of Krishna, whereas Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya has wrote glorification of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Krishna himself, as Avatara. He has assumed the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Shariradhari. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tears it apart. But by the time already the devotees have already learnt the verse. That's why we are now, that is provided in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So there, that's what it says. Vairagya Vidya. This Krishna consciousness is Vairagya Vidya. It's not ordinary Vidya. It gives us detachment. Of course, detachment is not dry detachment like Gnanis. Detachment is positive attachment to Krishna. Our detachment is true detachment because we can never truly become detached from anything because we are always eternally attached, connected to Krishna. So when we truly become attached to Krishna, that's when we truly become detached from everything else. Otherwise, for lack of proper attachment, we fall back to material things. For lack of proper cultivation of higher taste, we fall back to lower taste. So this is another beautiful teaching of Krishna consciousness. That our natural tendency to be attached to something should be turned to Krishna. So the other thing that I read, the Prabhupada's letter I read, Prabhupada was chastising his disciple. Without discipline, there cannot be any spiritual progress. So there he was chastising him that we have to follow the authority, not that we can independently question, not this is right and wrong. Then this begs a question, do we become completely devoid of free will when we surrender? But then Krishna himself is saying pariprashnena. See, what Prabhupada is highlighting is that the pariprashna, the questioning, cannot be without pranipada, without surrendering attitude and seva attitude. When the questioning is backed by proper surrender and seva, that is welcomed by the spiritual master. In fact, Prabhupada had modified many of his practices, many of the system of management based on the questioning and comments and feedback given by the disciples, by practicing disciples who are surrendered. So it's not that that is not allowed, but when the spiritual master detects a mood of rebelliousness, the spiritual master chastises. So it's not that we have to become blind, but we have to become surrendered. In that spirit, the spiritual master welcomes us. So that's why you see Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita, he asks several questions. He even points to Krishna, hey Krishna, you are confusing me with your equivocal instructions. Buddhim mohayasiva me. Oh, you are putting me in delusion. Your instructions are equivocal. You are confusing me. Tadekam vada nischitya. So please remove my confusion. Even though Krishna had no intention, but Arjuna openly expressed, and Krishna welcomed his expression because Arjuna already surrendered. And with that surrendering spirit, with that improvement spirit, he was asking, not with the spirit of blaming Krishna. So our attitude should not be with a criticizing attitude, blaming attitude. Our attitude should be that of self correction. And when that is detected by the spiritual master, and he responds. Krishna responded to Arjuna and gave him the right knowledge to remove his clarification. And in the end, Arjuna said, now, nashto mohaha smrutir labdha. Now my moha is dispelled. I've regained my memory. Karishye vachanam tava. Now I will do what you say. I'll stop here. Anyone has any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Sadhu Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, in today's lecture, you mentioned about if a wife is not doing something to the husband and she's considered as prostitute, but in today's era, not all husbands are Krishna conscious. And if a wife is Krishna conscious and then a husband is not, how will that apply to those kind of families?
Yeah, so this is a very intricate question. There cannot be one simple answer for all such cases. It has to be carefully understood and advised. So, in general, the Vedic principle is respect the husband. But of course, if the husband is a demon or a non devotee, there has to be certain applications that we have to consider while keeping the relation as much as possible, at the same time practicing Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada had given several instructions on this regard. And one Mataji was initiated as well, even though her husband was not agreeable to Krishna consciousness. So she was practicing. She had continued to be in a good relation in the family and all that. So there are, and then some people, they gave up the relation in extreme cases. So we have to understand, and sometimes the Mataji, by her practices, they have transformed their husbands, and now the husbands have become great devotees. So it's a lot of dynamics at play here. So based on the individual situation, we have to approach. But in general, This is a Vedic principle that one has to become subservient to the husband.
Okay, Prabhuji. And the other question is regarding questioning. You have given the clarity towards the end of the class, like it should be submissive. Even then, in temples, if you see something is going out of order, like, and if we are doing real true service too, so how is it okay to? Is it not okay to say it to the higher authority if something goes wrong? And is it taking away your submissive quality, or how?
No, we can, no, there, in every temple, there is a proper system of etiquette that is established. As long as we are following it, following the line of that authority without breaking the etiquette, we should not do prajalpa or spread false things and unnecessarily talk and spread propaganda amongst the devotees. We should approach the right channel, right authority, and express, Prabhu or Mataji, this is what is happening, this is what I feel. Please consider. So, in a humble mood, not in a correcting mood or in a blaspheming mood. So, you do your duty, and Krishna will reciprocate. You have done your duty. Always we have to do our duty. Karmanyeva adhikaraste. Ma phaleshu kadachana. Don't be attached to the result. Krishna decides the result. Whether it has to happen this way or that way, don't be attached. You have a right to do your duty, but you should not be attached to the result.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for your questions. Bhagavad Gita as it is ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.